Is what was old once again new? 4. The new data slate is out, and everybody is shook up. Will Daka Daka take over? Is it due for a nerf? Is the true flexibility of the old law our strength? Find out on Wall Tactics, where today we're going to go over last week's meta, look at what performing lists we're doing, kind of outline how that list was so good and the possible changes it may have seen due to the point changes, and then also try to express how the Orks actually have good flexibility and everything isn't stuck in Mordaka yet. We can actually see the expression of Mordaka already through a lot of the play that's happened in Tactical Brigade. So, with that being said, welcome to Wall Tactics. And of course, we have to acknowledge our sponsors, the Baron of Dice, for hooking us up with the amazing quality dice to help us do our paint competition. So shout out to the Baron of Dice for the high quality dice. Check them out in the description, 5% off because nobody likes taxes. And of course, shout out to our Forge Fire Gaming sponsors that allows us to do our new membership videos and tactical videos. So check them out in the description as well for the high quality dice that's typically used competitively here in the Midwest. So that being said, let's go to our old reliable Meta Monday. So, of course, a lot of people are like, why do I care about this? You care about this because, one, we can actually already see what the changes are. Therefore, we can see what the lists look like and what changes are due. And also, you can see that, hey, there was other ways to play Orks before Mordaka. And if you don't have the units that are going to be expressed these upcoming days as to how to play Mordaka, you can see that other detachments are quite viable. And the list that did well, that we're going to cover more in depth, are 3 different detachments. So that means I want to give some hope to anybody who's still playing Tactical Brigade. Shout out to you guys. I put a poll up, so make sure you check out that poll. So we had, what's up, Noah? Whoa, to all you guys in chat. Yeah, 2 streams today, boys. And I might record one after this. So we had 38 Orc players. We had 1 Green Tide player going X and 1, which we will cover today, with a 69% on the Green Tide. Now, I've been practicing Green Tide partially for teams event, partially because I think it's countering what everybody else is doing. Maybe I'm the only one in there. Maybe it's just effort. It's only a low amount of us players yet. I know that should give people some hope that want to play boys. Then we have Tactical Brigade. This is the ones that got hit. Of course, you can't issue 2 orders anymore, and the point increases happen. We will go over one of these lists today and look at the changes that happened there and see if the list still has some legs on it. 52% win rate. World Horde, old faithful, old reliable. Like I like to say, we've been running these rules since pretty much 8th edition for the most part, other than stuff like Fight on Death, for example. But it's really good, a good expression of Orks and something that you can always fall back on with whether you're starting again, have a new collection, whatever it is. 2 players going X of 1, 9 players overall with the 47% win rate. Then we have Dread Mob, which is always seen as a meme detachment, usually not really looked in depth to, but if you've been around, if you're really an Orc exclusive player, you know that Dread Mob has had legs the entire time since the Codex came out. And what is now known as Mordaka and what is pretty much becoming the units that identify a Mordaka have already been played in Dread Mob. And today we're actually going to look at that, as the Dread Mob player was pretty much running what a lot of people are looking at for Mordaka and already having success in it. So that could show that, 1, maybe Mordaka is already too strong because it's a better version possibly of Dread Mob, or 2, that, hey, the Dread Mob already still had playing that you can keep doing that with some changes if you don't really want to do the fully Mordaka thing, or if Mordaka is going to get changes and you don't really feel like dealing with that, just keep playing Dread Mob with those same units and having success. So a lot of definitely cool stuff to see there. Then we have Bully Boys with 27% win rate. I'm pretty sure people may be bored and just trying new things. All good. And then Cult of Speed. These guys actually thought we're going to get changes, but they didn't actually get any changes. Didn't get any changes. So I didn't know if they would for sure. I never said, they would. No one ever said they would. But it was something we'd hope for. But now we see that the 3 detachments that are coming out are going to be consistent for all of 40K, not just the Orks and the few detachments that came out. So that being said, I want to talk about other couple successful walls that we're going to give credit to, but we're not going to go too in depth, maybe because a lot of their units changed and I didn't see a way that we could really change it with points. Or like, for example, Alex did very well. He got 3rd place at, Ryan McGuire did very well. He got third. He got at the World's Championship qualifier, but his list archetype was very much changed drastically by these point increases. didn't really look into that. And then Alex as well, he got third place, but his archetype changed a lot, even though we're going to be hitting the same event that he did well at. Tyler Hunt and then Darren both ran different variations of Warhorde. Some of them actually did also include tank buses and shock attack guns, and then the variations of trucks as well. Still good credit for great runs. That's why we have to give them credit. Shout out to them gets in the successful WAAAGH. Whoa! But let's look at the guys we're gonna take a little bit of a look into today. I actually do happen to have notes of this event, so we're gonna actually start off first with the person who sent me these notes, which were Devin Smith and his Green Tide. So, of course, like I just said, I think Green Tide might end up being a sleeper counter to the meta, and that's actually what Devin said as well. Now, what's actually good about this is because of Devin, I was able to get access to what the missions were. So that's pretty cool. So let's go over his list real quick, maybe a little bit of his thinking, some of his notes, and then we'll quickly go over the list, his opponent list, simply because there's so many changes that happen that these lists probably have changed as well. So we'll just give them a quick rundown, but because every list we're going to go over is 6 rounds, it'll still be good and in-depth. So we have, yeah, Matt, what's up? Oh, bully boys. I'm bully boy with you, man. All right, so we got Green Tide, triple, Pain Boys. Now, we've seen that some people don't bring triple, but Devin actually said, I think while everybody's trying to get big and lean, trying to get big and elite, I'm just going to go for more bodies and just kind of gunk up the battlefield. It was a good call by him, clearly. He had triple war bosses with ferocious show off. Love that. And then, of course, one of those Pain Boys had brutal but cunning. We had one weird boy with bloodthirsty belligerence, and then another weird boy on his own. I personally, as I've been running this, don't feel like I always need all the characters and all the weird boys. But in other cases, it's like having multiple weird boy units so you can be in combat and then jump out of combat, so you're not fully stuck on it. Those units in your back pocket, so you can go for a secret mission if you were playing kind of passively, because the enemy can actually burn through you as a Green Tide player, which does happen sometimes. So you're using your wall more as a threat, but in this case, because it's all meat, you're just kind of all going forward. So I don't really feel like you always need multiple weird boys. Maybe just one. You can only roll for one of the weird boy capabilities. Yeah, Matt was like, well, I just had the points for it, so I was like, yeah, I'm going for it. Then we have, but I actually still think that he did the really good approach of bringing a lot of stuff. He mentioned that he also did bring the weird boy because he was allowed to jump to screen out Bridgehead, right? So we know Bridgehead's gone, so this is something we're just taking food for thought as we go over this, guys, right? I like Green Tide, I still don't run this exact list. So he had 5 big fat units of boys, followed by 1 10-man unit of boys. So people ask me, is a 10-man unit of boys worth it? Absolutely. He's meant to do stuff early. Maybe he wants to go run on Terraform. Maybe he wants to go out pick a fight. Maybe he's bait for a heroic intervention. There's a lot of things that 10-man unit of boys can do. 1 truck, followed by a Gretchen unit, 2 10-man units of commandos. This is kind of like that saturation thing. Some people have done full 30. It's like, okay, that's just more stuff, so it's right in your face. Green Tide's pretty slow. Therefore, hey, I want to take the initiative by just putting 20 boys across the battlefield. It could be just simply putting 10 and then keeping the next one for the next line so it can do it next. And then you have 2 units of 5 Storm Boys. So that being said, I should probably move these. I wonder what you guys are doing in with the poll right now. I wonder, guys, what you guys are doing with the poll right now. So let's take a look at my gets list. So sorry, I went right here past it. Here it is. It's funny. Look at all 3 orcs got right next to each other in rankings, and they're all 3 different detachments, right? So we got Devin, he'd be Green Tide, and then we have a tactical and then a Green Tide. A Dread Mob. So let's look at my boys list. Now, of course, I'll be reading some notes. So if I look like I'm like sounding weird or stuttering a little bit, it's because I'm reading some stuff from my boy Devin sent me. But it helps get some context, right? And context matters. That's why we do these things. So let's go over his first opponent real quick, and then we'll go his point of view. It was Dark Angels. He said at 15, Deathwing Knights, and the line is pretty much what you can see from here. Lines, Ballistic Dreads, some Lancers, Scepters, Infiltrators, and then one of the inner circle champion squad. He said he could pretty much tar pit the Knights. He said he pretty much tar pits the Knights. Let me make sure I'm looking at this. Yeah. And the line was the hard part because his sweep profile of 16 attack, strength 6 -2, damage 2 meant that he was engaging with, he was able to chop through and cleave through boys really well. And because his fight first meant that he gets to fight first constantly. The opponent went first and he was in the center by turn 2. right? So you could be like, man, maybe the commandos, if you went first, could have held all that stuff back, which could have helped. Yeah, he said, I went for a turn 1 jump onto his backfield to try to get it with reroll charges on Lieutenant. And he rolled a 1. However, between getting a good charge off on his Lancer on the WAAAGH turn 2, he was able to get onto his home and then make it so he couldn't score much off that. Oh, yeah, I should have said with the mission because I actually did have the mission here. So it was mission C, layout 7, by the way. He said day 1 was layout. By the way, I think he's on right now. Layout 6 and 7 were day 1. We're layout 1, and it was linchpin, fog of war, tipping point. Sorry, I should have said that first. Sorry, like I said, I'm going over the notes. Little ugly here. So since it was linchpin, able to get in his enemy's home objective, he was able to flip that pretty reliably. Like he said, he was just maneuvering. The line was the only issue there. Other than the Deathwing Knights, he just kind of tar pits them, which is what I've always said when dealing with Deathwing Knights. So 20-man unit of boys can kind of counter them for a little bit. So we have his second matchup. Let me make sure you guys can actually still see as I move through this. Yes, cool. Last stream, boy, it was cutting you off. So game 2, mission E, which was take and hold, prepared positions, hammer and anvil, and this was also layout 7 for him. He said this was against Bridgehead Guard. I did click the wrong one. No, I didn't. Devin. Yeah, I did click the wrong one, that second one. Sorry, guys. There we go. Which was against Bridgehead Guard. Look, I have these notes, huh? Which it had Ursula Creed, the Scion Squad. This has been pretty much nerfed into the ground. Naroga Dorn commanders and such. But like we said, he actually said he was able to jump, which is something I really wanted to do for that. He said turn 1, he took up the entire he got turn 1, so he took up the entire middle of the field between his commandos and his jump and his deployment zone. He even got a jump charge off again on his enemy's objective home zone. So by the time his objective came down, it was over. This is something that people have mentioned that was a direct counter to the Bridgehead, is that they don't hold primary and they're not on the field. Therefore, that was just a straight up tactical decision by Devin to say hyper aggressive, jump onto his home. Love to see that. Then we go into his third game. Make sure I didn't mess that up. Which, surprisingly enough, was against the other org player who did well at this event. It's funny because Alex literally writes in his title, we're not covering his list, but he got shout out for doing well. 200 plus 50 points next data slate. So he knew how powerful his list was. Others basic triple Big Mac with shock attack guns, Big Mac and mega armor, a beast boss, and a war boss. The cool thing about his list, was, let's see, besides just the straight stuff, is he had some breaker boys alongside this max truck spam. So that's what I'm saying. His list was very similar in what we've been knowing the Tactical Brigade for. He said it was mission K, which is Scorched Earth, Stalwart, and Search and Destroy. He said this game only went to round 3. He did not go to 4 or 5 because time ran out. Now, here's the thing that he also said earlier, I should have mentioned, that this event, they were having 3-hour rounds, but as soon as you hit the table, you started setting up, the timer started going. That means you had pretty much 2.5 hours for the whole game. And also rules were enforced that you had to put after 5 minutes were left on the clock for both players, you couldn't start another battle round. He said 2 of his 6 games didn't go on to the full game. So this was his game, one of his games that they both clocked out. This is something that I consistently expressed. If you were practicing, whether Tactical Brigade, you're playing Orks competitively, Green Tide, whatever it is, the clock does matter. And I think it's pretty impressive that Devin still took it to the event knowing this was going to happen. So that also has to do with his low time. And like you said, it has to do with him running with a lot of bodies, which is why, some of the Green Tide lists are running less bodies. Yeah, we'll see what happens with the change to the busters, right? Obviously, the flash kits were a big deal to a certain point. He said that his opponent only staged up and killed his flash kits turn 1. But by the time it was turn 3, a lot of his stuff were dead by the insane amount of volume and shooting and everything that those guys were able to do. So yeah, I think just because these guys have been nerfed to the ground, we're going to talk about how that would look into Green Tide as that's changed so drastically, and these guys didn't really finish the game. But it was still a great job overall at the event. Is just like Alex said, he knew this was going to get nerfed into dust, and to a degree it did. No, his game was canceled, but you're here, my get. Then he goes into Salamanders, his next game, which is Firestorm Assault. He said this was layout mission B, layout 2, which is Purge the Foe, Smoke and Mirrors, and Tipping Point. Funny enough, this guy had just like a ton of weird kind of cool Salamander stuff. It was Lieutenant, Vulcan Heastan, 30 Intercessors, Company Heroes, Lancer, Inferno Squad, Redeemer, Predators, Repulsors, and then Double Scouts. He said everything pretty much went up and it was aggressive. The opponent got turn 1. He pushed with the Land Raiders and Incessors and Vulcan. And he also charged some more and picked up some commandos. But seeing how aggressive it was, he just turned 1 and picked up Marines. And that's kind of what I always say, which is the thing why you bring the small units with your Green Tide list, is you're using those small units to kind of get the enemy to entice to come clean you up and charge you. So you don't really want your enemy to shoot you and dislodge you as the green player with your little Green Tide player with your little trash skirmish stuff. You want them to charge them and get closer to you. If anything, you want to pull off some heroics, right? That saves me in games with Green Tides where I pull off some crazy heroics. So then we go into this game 5. Yeah, then we go into his game 5. So great job moving up the field. You can see in how Devin's playing is that he's quite aggressive. The commandos do hold the line, but as people eliminate them, then he goes, okay, do I turn on wall, turn on 2 wall, turn 1 wall, or turn 2 wall? Which, unlike a passive Green Tide list where you would kind of try to wall turn 3 because you don't want them to shoot through you too early, so you use more of your skirmish to last longer. So he goes into his next game was Chaos Demons, which was Legion of Access, Cohort, Keeper of Secrets, Mask of Slaanesh, and the Chariot. You got Demonettes, Triple Fiends, Chariots, Seekers, and then a Soul Grinder. So only a couple units on that list for all the meat. But these units do hit hard and would just demolish your Tide players if you allow them to. He said never played that matchup. He had no idea what to expect, but it was original. So I spent the first 2 turns making objectives and holding them for the entire game. That's the correct move. You don't really want to try to go run up on them necessarily. They can kind of take the initiative for you and beat your butt. So you just want to rack up points and then hit them really hard. It's kind of funny, unlike the other ones. He said Fiends hit hard, but the Grinders, Keepers do not have the volume. Yeah, the Keepers and the Grinders are the things that are kind of like the weaknesses here. The Fiends, though, can definitely kind of one-punch your bricks. Yeah, that's why he has 5 of those bricks. He said he was up a ton of points turn 3 when he pulled a whole call, and he picked up 4 boy units. This is where I found out call does not have a point max. Yes, it does. It does not. Just so you know, call does not have a max. Yes, it does not if you're playing Green Tide. So they gave him 20 points. Pretty much by the end of the game, it tabled him, but he got 15 points. Yeah, got 15 points and another 10 from the secondary. However, he had maxed his secondary scoring. Therefore, that he barely won this game by turn 1, by 1 point. That he barely won this game, pretty much getting tabled by the end by turn 1. Make sure I read that right. I thought he said that I lost that by turn 1. I'm like, oh, you won. No, but yeah, he ended up winning that game by barely 1 point because yes, the Fiends and everything do chew through him by the end. But like I said to begin, him delaying it was actually the right move. Because that's what you. Then we go into his last game. Where we go here, which was against the Demonic Incursion. Yeah, because the other one was the Demon. That's whatever. The Fiends, which are now nerfed to the ground. But it's still a good lesson for if you're playing against stuff that can buzzsaw through you, like 30 World Eater Terminators, something weird like that. So then we got 6 was mission game 6 was, sorry, I have it right here, was mission L on layout 1. That means it was take and hold, hidden supplies, and search and destroy. Boom. So as for what he said, is the greater demons do not have sweep attacks. The greater demons do not have sweep attacks. His opponents couldn't really kill off the whole unit, so he would just kind of tar up the middle objective and keep the opponents to really horrible primary. It was a fun game. So it was Keeper of Secrets, Greater Unclean One, Shalexi Hellbane, 2 big bricks of Nurglings, some Plague Bearers, some Beasts of Nurgle Flamers, and then 3x3 Screamers. So good old-fashioned Green Tide, making the rise of the Green Tide a real thing, because everybody's looking at Mordaka and everybody's looking at War Horde and how can I just kill you. Yet there's a couple of these brave gits out here in the meta that are taking boys, breaking their backs to just tar pet everybody in the most iconic, classic way that you can play Orks, which is pretty much to bury them in bodies, flip primary, and not allow them to even play the game, which is what I love to see. Thank you, Devin Smith, war for the rise of the Green Tide. And so we move on. So we go to Tactical Brigade with Tarzan. So this list, I actually have the changes for the points increase here. So before you're like, this list is all over the place. Sorry, this list is dead. Let's just talk about the point changes. That way you would know what kind of changes here and how much this really changes from if you were to run it in more DACA, for example. So this list has a 70-point increase since the data slate that has dropped today. So we have Big Mech in Mega Armor, followed by 2 Big Mechs with shock attack guns, Ghaz Taktikal, a mech, and then 2 war bosses. This was crazy heavy characters. We'll see if he feels the need for the individual mech, for example. Of course, I know that you want to use this for the battle. You can give it for the battle wagon to make a shoot. You can end up using one of the trucks to enjoy firing deck. And you can give out orders, but you already have Ghaz. I'm sure you can make it work without him. And then you just, you can find some more points after that. It's pretty nice. 2 5-man units of Storm Boys, 2 trucks, a battle wagon, 1 big brick of Flash Kits, Gretchen, a 5-man looter squad, 2 mega knobs, 2 5-man units of knobs, and then 3 Tankbuster squads. So if we were being lazy right off the bat, you can drop a mech and a looter unit. You do lose a little bit of scoring assets. But you still have the core of what this list is. You just have to be more careful with your Storm Boys and your trucks, for example. But you very much could keep running stuff. It would just be hitting you on secondaries. I personally would probably drop a wagon, but this list still very much has legs. And something like Tankbusters really just cared about 1 order. They didn't really require 2. The knobs did appreciate 2 because they would give themselves stealth and maybe +1 strength. But if it's outside of the WAAAGH, you don't need to give yourself +1 strength, so you just ignore stealth and cover nonetheless. So this list is still very much has play. Ghaz Taktikal obviously didn't change, but if you were to slip this to more DACA, that could also be interesting as well. Like I said, there's only a 70-point change. So yeah, so he had 2 war bosses for the knobs, 3 tank busters for the shock attack guns, and then 1 of those tank busters could probably end up being given orders from the mech solo if he jumped out of the vehicle at the same time. Possibly given orders in that kind of way just because he couldn't afford stuff. Could use it as reserve, or you could drop it for just more stuff, like we were speaking about the points difference. So let's take a look at his path. Wordy Boys might get shadowed. Yeah, that's actually a good thing about how Bully Boy is going to look when you can kind of have access to their rules for 1 CP. It's not exactly the same thing, but yeah, it's definitely a thing. So shout out to Tarzan, by the way. I haven't seen this get since I was since Index Hammer when I first started the channel. So let's take a look at his path to victories, and thanks to our boy Devin, we were actually able to see what these missions were. So like I said, we're not gonna spend too much time in these enemy lists because some of these guys have changed. What's up? Whoa! Look, my game wants to bring a stomp. I hear you. All right, we can talk about the new detachment near the end of the video. Just for the gits that are all excited. I'm here for it, and this is live, so we can do whatever we want. So we have Abaddon. This is Creations of Bile. So we have Despoiler, Fabius Bile, Chaos Lord, some Cultists, some Legionnaire, 5-man units, a 10-man unit, Chosen, Possessed, and then 2 Vindicators and some Rhinos. So this list is going to change as well because the Vindicators all went up. This mission was C, so it was Lichpin and Tipping Point. And in my opinion, he just straight damaged that Space Marine player, so we'll see how that looks in the future. But it's still subject to, or still wrecking Space Marines if we were to change his list to more DACA or adjust it slightly with the 70 points that it's increased. So like I'm saying, like, you guys think that the Tactical Brigade's dead, you could keep running Tactical Brigade and enjoying it if you like to order the variety, makes you feel like a cunning kit, or you could just start this with a kind of skeleton of what more DACA is going to look like, and then of course change it based off the actual detachment ability and the units you have. You're never meant to just strictly copy and paste units. You didn't build it, so you probably don't understand it in depth. but you can understand the validity of a unit, see it actually expressed in practicality, and you can actually kind of be guided and given like a foundation or archetype to your list, and then that way it helps kind of save time and helps people that are maybe intermediate new players. If you're a super high level, you can literally make lists out of anything, write it on a piece of napkin like Mark Perry does at a at a Waffle House parking lot, right? So so who cares? We're all different. Then we have a second one, which is mission 2, which is Gene Stealer cults. Gene Stealers are crazy. So we have Alkalites, Icon Ward, Biophage, Locust, Magus, and then 2 Reductus Saboteurs. Magus or Magus or Magus or Maggot? I don't know. We have 10-man unit of 2 auto pistol Acolyte hybrids, actually 3 of those guys. And then some dudes with hand flamers, and then the Neophyte hybrids, followed by 2 Goliath truck, 3 Ridge Runner units. One of them is a 2-man unit, 2 bricks and metamorphs, and then pure strains. Again, this is just straight damage and aggression when you're playing against Gene Stealers. This mission was taking whole prepare positions in Hammer and Anvil. Very much high aggression. It possibly lay out 6 or 7. From what I was told at this event, you either got 6 or 7. Wasn't assured which one you got. So that's cool. So it was pretty much random, and then your opponent, not everybody got the same one. So I can't say which one he played that one specifically. That's funny because I do have a second stomp available to me. Shout out to my boy Kevin. So maybe the first game I'll just run both stompas just to get it out of the way. So then we have Matt Core with his Iron Hands. This is the list that he ended up losing to, surprisingly, on the game mission 3. So game 3 was mission K. Again, either layout 6 or 7. This was Scorched Earth, Stalwart, and Search and Destroy. So this was Iron Storm. So we have Tech Marine, 2 units of Assault Intercessors, 3 Lancers, 2 units of was it 3 units of Infiltrators? 3 units of Infiltrators, 3 Repulsor Executioners, and then 3 Scouts. So this is pretty much one of those things where it was just straight death ball of DACA. Looking at our boy's Tarzan's list, if the terrain didn't allow for him to stage his battle wagons, the tank busters just simply get disembarked and picked up by repulsors. If they don't get the initiative, these guys are fast. They have a good, nice death ball. They can also blank damage, so there's a chance they actually ended up surviving some of the firepower, especially if you've got the initiative and ended up popping a wagon, for example. And then Ghaz, he can be tar pit. They do have the mortal wounds coming off all those little dudes with their mines, I believe they're called, like some kind of brain fart on what the mine was called for these infiltrator guys. So it's funny because just all this DACA that's being spoken about today, yet is it really on the regards of Ironstorm Spearhead and all these vehicles? If your infantry and your units do disembark and then they don't end up docking the enemy off the table, do you just end up getting picked up in response? That's one of the things that I wonder about and think about when I'm looking at the new detachment as well as the Tactical Brigade. And we see here, even in its unnerfed form into a basic Space Marine Iron Hand list, that this one didn't even change. There's a chance that he just, based off the mission layouts and the fact that our units are squishy, if you get first shooting into them, you can kind of just pick everything up. Or if they whiff, then you kind of just pick everything up. If you can't get line of sight, which getting lines of sight for Lancers and repulsors on a couple trucks is way easier than everything in a unit getting out and being able to see, or stuff in a wagon, be able to get in every model being able to see and have the range. So he has range and he has firepower. So I do wonder about that when I look at more DACA. Like, we do have total crazy offensive power, no doubt about it. But is there just some armies that we're going to run into and just kind of get firepower or out firepowered or outmaneuvered and picked apart and then out firepowered once we're kind of dwindled? That's good food for thought, So then we go to his 4th team, which was mission B, which was Purge the Foe. This was either layout 1 or 2, I believe. There's Smoke and Mirrors and Tipping Point. So again, here was Salamanders. Did this guy end up playing all of our boys? Oh, did I just click Devin? I just clicked Devin. I just picked something silly. I just picked Devin. And then I just picked Devin, guys. I should be looking at Tarzan. Ignore what I just said, because my boy Devin is the one who lost to that. So I was looking at the wrong one for his game 3 because he actually won that. So thank you guys. Thank you guys. That was something I was wondering, but I guess Tarzan wondered that. They murdered them, but if they're nerfed, do they still murder them? I don't know. So actually, it was the correct list. Didn't misclick, but I did misrepresent them. He win or lost. He actually won. I still think what I said is something of a concern, but now it's a concern for more DACA or it's a concern for new tactical brigade since it's nerfed. So sorry for that. Oops, misspoke. I was clicking too fast, and I see you guys in chat popping off, so you guys are catching my attention. I gotta focus. So we go to his game 4. So game 4, this is pretty traditional for Orks to lose. Game 4 was Purge the Foe, Smoke and Mirrors, and Tipping Point. Thank you. I almost messed that up. And it was against Necron. So I think we can all understand this one, right? So this was the Awakened Dynasty. We have Nightbringer, Luminor Caesara, Stormlord, Scorpack Destroyer, Scorpack Lord, and then Technomancer. Actually, those are 2 Scorpack Lords. I don't know why I said Destroyer. That was just Destroyer Lords, I guess that's their name. 1 Reanimator, 1 Brick of Wraith, Crypto Thralls, 2 Doomstalkers, 1 individual Heavy Locust Destroyer, 2 units of Ophidians, 2 units of Locust Destroyers. Now, I do know some Doomsday arcs went up, but that's about it. So I don't know exactly what's getting taken off this list. Maybe like an enhancement, I guess. And then they can just keep bringing this. So quite potent. Purge the Foe is a big factor. Can I actually kill them? Like I said, it was either layout 1 or 2. I'm not sure about that. Purge the Foe is just the nemesis of all Ork players. So before I continue, move on and make another mistake, let me make sure I got this one right. So we're going to pull up his game 5, and I'm going to acknowledge the chats real quick. So his game 5 was against Drakari. But in the meantime, we got a $5 super chat from Andrew Stone for the generous gift. Thank you very much for that. It means a lot. And I know everybody's really excited today. So thank you for joining me, even though it's not specifically more DACA, but we're going to be looking at these lists through the lens of what could be more DACA and with the changes that they've had. So let's not be limited because there's still so many Orc detachments that are still really good, and everybody should be encouraged, even if you don't have 30 Ludas, 30 Flesh Kits, 18 Tankbustas, stuff like that. But it's all good. So thank you very much to Andrew Stone. Great for the support and very generous of you. Whoa. And then we have, of course, Mad Get Wapo with his 5 WAAAGH Tactics memberships. Whoa, the Wapo, the Super Get. Also, we've actually started only one so far. I've been working on it. I'm going to continue to work on more videos. We're getting swelled here with all the great information of Orks, but we're doing members only videos. They're nothing super crazy. You guys aren't missing out. I'm not pulling your collar or anything, but there are good videos if you want to just be around more in the Great WAAAGH, support, and do more videos that are more just stuff that I feel like covering and doing. So with that being said, thank you very much to Wapo and to Andrew for that. So, and check out those member videos. Leave criticism or feedback on what you guys want. Also, if you get in there for free to make it worth it. Now, let's look at these Drakari real quick. Archon, Trope, Death Jester, Lilith, Incubi, Cabalites, Mandrakes, Trope, Scourge, Witches, 2 Raiders, Coronos, 2 Talos, Ravagers, 2 Reavers. Bam. Typically, they just don't have the output for what was Tactical Brigade back then. That was game 5. Make sure I didn't mess that up. Yeah, because Tarzan lost game 4. Did not go mess that again. Still kind of low on time. You see this 57. This mission was the Ritual, Swift Action, and Crucible. So it could be that Tarzan couldn't really, I don't know, keep his objective, or it was just holding on to one very close. Like he would make one turn, he could turn 2, he would make the one closest, then move closer to his own deployment zone, try to play more defensive and maybe not move into the Ducati, as he doesn't really want to get picked up, which kept his points kind of low, which is interesting because typically Drakari can't hold primary, and then we want to stop them from doing secondaries. And in this one, so his score was kind of interesting to me. Was it a time issue? Not sure. But it was also possibly layout 2, layout 1, not sure about that. Still, great job for defeating them. Those cheeky Eldar sneaky gits. Then we go into his last game, which was against Tau Auxiliary Cadre. So these guys got a new detachment too. So we have Commander Shadow Sun, Commander Coalstar Battlesuit, Ethereal Fire Team. We got Broadside Battlesuit, Knife Fight Battlesuit, Ghost Keel, Double Hammerhead Gunships, 2 Carnivores, 2 Rampagers, Pathfinder, 2 Battlesuits, and then 3 Vespids. So pretty basic Tau unit. I think, you know, with the meta changing and stuff, we're going to see how this goes. I did not mean to look at it. And so then we have a 66-point win there from Tarzan. So great job to that kit again for pulling it out with this tactical brigade. Let's take a look at this list one more time. It is a Big Mech and Mega Armor with Mech Captain 2, Big Mech Shock Attack Ghaz Thraka, a mech, 2 war bosses, 2 5-man units Stormblaze, 2 trucks, a battle wagon, a 10-man unit flash kits, size unit of Gretchen, 5-man unit looters, 2 mega knobs, 2 knob units for the war bosses, and then 3 tank buster units. 2 of those have sag mechs. One of them I just have basic mech that jumps out of the battle wagon and gives them an order. That way they don't just pay for the him as well. Interesting tech in him with that. Now you could drop him, you could drop Ludas, you could just straight up drop the 3rd tank buster unit and still had a very viable list for this detachment, or possibly even more DACA. So let's see how this kind of plays out. I love that he has Ghaz. Ghaz has always slept on this detachment because you think he does his orders are pointless. In reality, he's kind of like your mid-table kind of clear bully, runs up, kind of deals with stuff that's right in your face, kind of helps people respect that line, that barrier of threat range when you have your wall in your pocket. So could become interesting for more DACA as well. So if you're playing Tactical Brigade or you're playing more DACA, be excited, and good job, Tarzan is great. Whoa! As we move on to Garth Hunt. So Garth Hunt was also at this event, and he took what is now the skeleton archetype of what we know is now is more DACA, yet he already had this. This was known as the DACA mob. So of course you can see very clear differences, such as you don't need triple solo mechs to attach to your tank busters if you're playing something like more DACA, for example. This list went up 75 points if you were playing Dread Mob in that case. So we'll see if Dread Mob retains its ability to retain this kind of outline, or if more DACA is kind of going to carry it, and then you know the Killicans and maybe Death Dreads and maybe Morkanaut Gorkanauts are going to stay over here, or does everything that was here straight up move to more DACA until it gets nerfed? That's something that we want to see. Yet let's appreciate what exists, because like I said, this is what some people are directly showing me. Similar list to this. They're like, look what I made. And I'm like, I guess you haven't seen the more DACA videos. That's exactly what that looks like. So we have Boss Snikra, Zagra Ward Snega, 3 Big Mac Shock Attack guns, 1 with Gift Finder Gagas, 1 with Smoky Gubbins, and then triple mechs. Now, keep in mind, you could simply drop all 3 of these basic mechs, and you'd be sitting at the points threshold, and you'd be able to play more DACA. So it's kind of that simple to a certain degree if you change the enhancements too. But you obviously can't bring all those grots, so you'd bring some other skirmish units. But I'm a big fan of Dread Mob nonetheless for stuff like Killer Cans. So we have a big unit of grots for Zagrot, which he's going to be crazy in the more DACA detachment. 2 5-man units of minimum size unit of Gretchen. Can't really beat that. Love to bring more grots. 2 10-man units of flash kits, followed by 1 5-man unit of flash kits. Again, it's going to be interesting to see if everyone's going to straight deep lean into flash kits like we've seen here. This is the only detachment where you really see people bringing in all 25, 30. Even in Tactical Brigade, you would bring straight up 10, but you wouldn't bring all of them. In the what we understand is the archetype of more DACA, or all DACA, sorry, which is the DACA mob, what we used to call before more DACA came out, people would bring all 30 flash kits, just always having sustain. Now keep in mind, what if I can selectively choose these units to advance and charge? They have assault when they're going to advance and charge, so I'm giving them +1 strength, +1 attack, 5 up invuln, assault, advance, and charge, all for 1 CP on a 160-point flash kit unit, which is 20 wounds with a 4-up armor save and T5, which is going to have double sustain, ability to pop lethal of 1. So that's going to be just kind of crazy. That's not even like super CP depth of these other combos some people are talking about. But if you do break in closer to people, such as Boss Snikra being close enough to turn off someone's cover, right? Because for more DACA, you can just end up telling them more no cover here, and more Snikrot's already close enough to do that. Then your flash kits get to run off, turn off cover, and then run up and shoot something, and then pop lethal in that case as well. So a lot of variety here. It's pretty awesome in that case. Big options. That's why I'm like, man, people are like, I don't know if I got 15 flash kits. And I'm like, man, I don't know, man. In the what we've seen is the bones of what a lot of people are hinting to, like when you're talking about Art of War and they're saying, hey, I want to bring all guns. It's like, well, they're kind of leaning towards a lot of Ludas and a lot of flash kits. So then you see a lot of Ludas, a bunch of 10-man units. Now we talk about this detachment, you need the mechs to give them the ability for dread mobs. But if you were playing this in more DACA, you don't need a leader. You actually don't need a leader, in my opinion, to run these units. You could, of course, think a mech on there if you want, Sag mech, of course. But you also have 3 tank buster units here and then 2 trucks. The one thing here about this army is that if the enemy closes the distance, you don't have much options. In Dread Mob, you have reactive moves. Therefore, in any different kind of points investments that you're going to do similar stuff to this list art line, you might either need to invest in a counterpunch of respect, or just more other types of screens. Or something even like commandos to keep people kind of arm lengths away from you for a little longer. That being said, let's look at his path to victory and see what he actually had to take down at this event. So he ended up getting 8th place. You can see all 3 orc players here. 2 of those we just covered. Now I'll go to the 3rd. This time I won't misclick. And yes, a lot of grats. I like running a lot of grats, guys. I've run that same archetype months ago before we had more DACA, just to kind of understand it. If you don't have those grats, you feel like people can just run you over. If you have those grats, people have to run into them, and then you just kill them. So it's pretty crazy. It just takes a lot of dice rolling too, which, as we heard at this event, dice, clock was a factor. Excuse me. I said was a matter. Was a factor. So sorry, I clicked Garth again. No, Garth, I'm not covering you. Oh no, sorry, it was Garth. Yes, Garth, I'm covering you. Let me make sure I have the right person here. Yeah, Garth. Sorry. I'll make sure I wasn't clicking Devin again, because Devin's trying to get all my attention. Get out of here, Devin. So just because it's Green Tide, he thinks he can win me over. So we go over his first win, which is the Death Watch. So they're still around, still kicking, doing their things. Funny I used to own these guys. The Tomb of Ectocrates. So we have Captain in Gravis armor, Librarian in Phobos, Lieutenant with combi weapons, and then a Watchmaster. Some big brick of Death Watch veterans, a Rhino, an Assault Interceptors with jump pack, some 5-man units of Terminators, Incursors, Indominus kill team, Infiltrators, Storm Speeder, and then a Talon Strike kill team. Pretty cool. Let me kill some of these tabs because I have like 50 billion open. What's up with chat? Yeah, what do you guys got? Here we go. Well, yeah, and I feel like no one's appreciating the more DACA stratagem of like 1 CP WAAAGH. Like, how amazing is that? I've been wanting that all my life, on my 40K at least. So then we move on. Also, game 1 for Garth was Linchpin, Fog of War, Tipping Point. So the fact that they kind of both had to just keep on their home and couldn't like rack up primary, and Garth didn't have the armor to go get his, meant that he had to kind of slowly just fully table him instead of having to fully have the enemy commit and then table him in that way. Yeah, we moved on to the second game, which is Mission E, which is take and hold, prepared positions, hammer and anvil, possibly layout 7 or 6. So let's take a look at his second game. Yeah, making sure I keep my notes, guys. Making sure I keep staying on the notes. He had burned the Heretic. Well, he should have burned the Xenos, but he didn't. So we have Black Templars, where he has Castellan, Chapin Grimaldez, I Harm Marshal, and Judiciar. A big brick of Crusaders. God, they would suck to see an army of all damage to sustain. No wonder it was 100 points. 2 Impulsors, 2 Jump Pack units, Infiltrators, 2 bricks of Sword Brethren, 2 scouts, and then a Vindicator squad. My goodness, I'm talking today. Now drink that high quality H2O. How else you can imagine an army of all sustain damage 2 would utterly decimate some basic Space Marines. So if you're playing the new detachment, you're like, I messed up Space Marines. I'm gonna need you to do more than that, because all the stuff we get in that with these data sheets that we're looking at annihilate Space Marines. So let's look at some more stuff before we, fully say that the detachment's the only thing we want to play. But it's looking like it's very probable just to want to play until we get nerfed, right? So then we go into his third game. Make sure I don't press the wrong thing here. Which he was going into the demonic incursion, which this mission was Scorched Earth, Stalwart, Search and Destroy. Mission 3, right? Yeah. Make sure I mess this up. It was Mission K, and this is possibly layout 6 or 7 as well. So we have a Great Unclean one with Endless Gift, Keeper of Secrets, Alexia Halbrain, 2 bricks of Nurglings, Plague Bears, Nurglings, Flamers, Screamers, Triple Screamers. We actually seen this from another Orc player that placed, and playing the same guy as well, beating him. I think beating him, but this guy ended up losing. What I will say is this list, surprisingly, does well into that Dread Mob archetype, because it can simply put the Great Unclean one in your face and say, well, if you want to try to kill him, you can try and drop your whole army, which you still might fail, which also kind of puts you out of position to go for him. And then 2, all of these big guys can kind of close the distance and beat you up. The Nurglings can get in your face and start charging all of those little grot units, which means that all of your infantry big bricks can't walk around and move. The Plague Bearers can sticky objectives. That way, if you don't shoot them quick enough, they sticky stuff, and then everything can fully run forward. And then Screamers can help kind of jump over grots and get to you as well. Plus, you don't really kill the big stuff super reliably until it's exposed to multiple of your units. So if he stages up, only lets you shoot the big unclean one, and you expose yourself, then he could possibly get your face. Not in mind that all these Nurglings can possibly run at you, and they can advance and charge, so they could just touch most of them grots and then stop your flash shoots from going anywhere. They end up shooting at those guys too. It gets kind of silly, and based off the mission, you can kind of have a slow play of pace of play. But this is also why, if you're looking at more DACA as what you want to play, it could be who of you to spend some of these points instead of just shooting, to have something that can run out and do the WAAAGH and kind of push through the enemy lines, or just push the enemy off objectives physically for when you can't actually get lines of sight, or when you've actually been blocked off from getting full lines of sight, stuff like that. So I'm in favor. Still, I've played that matchup. It is more difficult than you'd expect. Because I have access to lethal and all this stuff, I can just pick you up. But really, 4-up invulns are 4-up invulns. So sometimes Tankbustas can pop off those. I can fail those. And you got to get all those big bricks of Orc infantry to shoot and all be able to line up on it. Then we move on to his 4th game, which was mission B, possibly layout 1 or 2. This is Purge the Foe, Smoke and Mirrors, and Tipping Point. So again, okay, I almost almost did it. I almost clicked freaking Devin. Devin, you almost got me, you Green Tide freak. All right, so sorry. There we go. Yeah, because this was his 3rd game. Yeah, okay. I was like, make sure I didn't mess that up. All right, so his 4th game, make sure we're staying with his guards here. He goes into the Necrons. In his 4th game, like I said, Purge the Foe, Smoke and Mirrors. So he had Scatterstar Legion, the Silent King, Locust Destroyer, Overlord, Technomancer, 5 Deathmark, Flayed Ones, Ophidian Destroyers, 2 Locust Destroyers, 2 Heavy Locusts, 2 Blades, Wraiths, and then 3 Doomsday Arcs. Of course, the Doomsday Arcs went up. This list is subject to change. We'll see how it goes. But our Git got a 91-point win there. Great to see. Obviously, he was able to just selectively kill stuff at will, and I'm happy to see it. And nothing really I want to add to that, because there's a lot of detail that could have happened in that kind of mission with that army. Then we go into 5, and his still cards. This is mission N, possibly layout 2. This was the Ritual, Stalwart, or Crucible. He played into Eldar. We have Eldar, Aspect Host. There we go. We have Asuman, Altark, Fugan, Slilax. I'm pretty sure this is their name. Storm Guardians, Double Wave Serpent, Reapers, Avengers, Falcons, Fire Dragon, Howling Banshing, Double Striking Scorpions, Swooping Hawk, and then Warp Spiders. All these guys are super soft and are extremely vulnerable to any of those flash gets shooting, even without full rerolls, like something from Tactical Brigade. Wave Serpents are big as heck, and they're vulnerable to getting popped. Grots are great screens for all these units, and you're just going to bully them on primary and murdering them as you move up the table. If you choose to go take their stuff, which honestly, that might be your incentive. Because you don't really want them to just sit back and then score their secondary and beat you late game. So he might have just been aggressive and just tried to kill them all by shooting them and walking into them. Because even if you charge them with those orc units, you still get to pick them up. So it's like, I might as well walk into you, get line of sight, call a wall when you run away from me, and then beat the crap out of you. So pretty awesome. And then we go to his mission 6, his 6th game. I'm like, yeah, make sure I don't mess this up. Where he had Space Wolves with a Stormlands task force. This was Taken Hold, Hidden Supply, Search and Destroy, Mission L. This was Logan Grimnar, Stormrider, Wolfguard Battle Leader, and then Wolfguard on Thunderwolf, followed by Intercessor Squad, 1 Union of Fin Region Wolves. That's like their version of Grots, kind of, but they actually hit and they don't have OC or give CP. So, but they're like little orc boys that fight, so it's cool. Predator Destructor, 2 Scouts, Speeder, and then 2 bricks of Thunderwolf Cav, followed by 3 5-man units of Wolfen. I've played into these Wolfen, like we've said. When they do contest and get in the way, everything's damaged too, everything wounding them and at least 4s or better, and then they're just kind of making it rain on them and beating the crap in volume, which is just enough to get through them. Now he does have predators, he does have certain volume that is respectable to kill like elite infantry, like your flash kits. But all in all, remember, he still has 3 tank busters. He still has Zod that can jail all of these Thunderwolf cav, and so it's not as easy as you would hope, especially for the Thunderwolf person to just run him down and go put him in there. And that was a 99-point win there. So we see Garth Hunt running what some would call the skeleton or the prototype version of what might become more DACA. So we have Snikra, Zagra, Warsnaga, 3 Big Macs with Shock Attack Gun, 3 triple baby mechs. We have 6 units of Gretchen, 5 of them are minimum size unit, 25 flash kits, 30 Ludas, max Tankbustas, which is 18, and then 2 units of trucks. So we'll see how this adjusts to the more DACA and what we've already seen throughout the meta. Shout out to Garth Hunt and his great DACA Wall for representing the Dread Mob in the fundamental structure of what it means to bring all the DACA. Will this change? We don't know, but this list was only 75 points since the changes. And I can already see how this fits right into DACA Mob without getting too antsy with the points. So that being said, let's see what you guys have to say before I head out. So yeah, a lot of exciting things today. Still talking about all the fun stuff that's yet to be loved for like the more DACA Mob, for example. Like, come on now, rapid fire on your mech guns. Rapid fire on 20-man unit of boys with their pistols when you run to get stuck in. Can we not take a moment to appreciate the fact that 1 CP all game access to a WAAAGH and assault means that we have access to essentially 5 abilities for 1 CP, which is an outstanding stratagem. So anyone who's limiting themselves to straight DACA because they feel like that's what everyone's pushing right now, go ahead and start writing yourself some lists and expand your creativity between Ghaz, between units that want to run up and fight. Now keep in mind, you do have to be outside of a truck, so you can't do a truck spam and run up the field. But it could be kind of interesting to run, 5-man units of Mega Knobs with the Big Mac with Shock Attack. I'm a Big Mac and Mega Armor, and you give him 1 CP WAAAGH, and he runs up, gets the WAAAGH, gives his unit 5-up Envol, and they have a 4-up 4-up Envol and a 5-up Feel No Pain, and then they can still regen guys. And then while you're doing that, everybody else is laying waste with the DACA because you've got a combined arm regiment. So there's so much to really explore. I don't think anybody should be discouraged, even from Tactical Brigade. That's why I showed that. If your Dread Mob, structure got stolen because it goes to more DACA, that's okay. I still think that, a individual Stampa goes crazy and picks up both Stampas from a DACA mob anyway. So it's like, we'll see what's up. So there's a lot of things that could be explored, and no one should be pigeonholed into thinking they need to go run down 30 Ludas, 30 flash kits to make it work, though that is the most linear way to work. Doesn't mean it's always best, doesn't mean it's the only way, it just means it's linear. So with that being said, of course, check out our membership videos, and then tune in on Friday, which we're going to have Mork the Perry, who's going to be live with us, going for a more deep dive and analysis. Plus, he's a wild git, so he's going to have some funny stuff to say and some wild combos. So with that being said, there's always one thing to keep in mind. Don't cross a wall, because we knock your teeth out.